Welcome, welcome, everyone. So glad you're able to join us today on this little webinar we like to call Virtual Brunch with Actual Nerds. My name is Leighton Rasco. I'm a nerd, and I will be moderating our discussion this morning. Today, we're being joined by four of our favorite kind of people, meeting planners.
Yay!
They're all planner friends of ours that we have worked with or are currently working with and who have all recently experienced the transition to virtual meetings. So today, get ready. We're going to laugh. We're going to cry. But mostly, we're going to discuss topics like virtual meetings and the return to face-to-face meetings. But before we introduce our panel and as well as our usual nerds, we're going to give a little extra time for people to continue to join us. And I'm going to go over a couple of quick housekeeping notes. I forgot to put up our panel picture of these lovely planners, but let's move on. Please change your Zoom name to reflect your full name as well as your company. That way we can figure out who joined us and who didn't. You may have noticed that you're coming in on mute. We ask that you stay on mute because, you know, a lot of distractions. However, we do encourage discussion, so please feel free to unmute yourself and join in. This is an Ask Me Anything style webinar, so questions and further discussion are encouraged. We will be moderating the chat as well as looking for virtual and physical hand raises. To raise a virtual hand, look at the reactions tab down at the bottom of your screen, and you can raise your virtual hand. And again, if you just want to unmute yourself and blurt something out, go for it. If you've missed any of our previous webinars, we have an archive, so you can go back and look at them all. Especially last time, we had Mike Dominguez on, who provided his perspective on the state of the industry. So if you missed that one, it is definitely worth going back and taking a listen. And we'll have this one up in a couple of days as well. Quick disclaimer. We will be discussing several products and service providers by name. We asked our panel to give their honest experiences and opinions, of which are solely theirs, and neither attending management nor any of our panelists have anything to gain or lose by the endorsement of any product or service. And a side note, in 4 weeks, we have attorney John Howe coming on, and we'll ask him how I did with that disclaimer. So let's get on with the introductions. We've got a bunch to get through today, so I'm going to quickly go through our usual AMI nerds who you'll most likely hear speaking up a bunch today, and then I'll get on to the experts. So we've got Jeff Rasco.
Hi, it's Jeff. On to the next person.
Okay, Jill Rasco.
Hi, this is Jill.
Awesome. And of course, we have our virtual bouncer, Jennifer Rasco Smith, who will mute you if your dog's barking.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you.
All right. Now, wake up. On to the panel. First up, as she probably is often because her last name starts with an A, we have Mandy Archer, HMCC. Mandy is the VP of Operation and Strategic Accounts at Infinix Global Meetings and Events and has been doing virtual and hybrid meetings for over 10 years now. Hey, Mandy.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Next up, we have Sally Mainprize, owner and event Yoda of Iron Peacock Events. And Sally recently added a DES, or Digital Event Specialist, to accompany the SMMC and CRP that already followed her name. Very happy you could join us.
Thank you.
We are, which was my Yoda voice.
Yes, good you are.
No. Definitely not.
Practice you need.
Yes. Next, I'd like to introduce Megan Rame, CMP, who has one full paid position as Director of Conferences and Events for TCEA, as well as a full-time volunteer job as President of our local MPI Texas Hill Country chapter. She just wrapped up turning her big conference in June, which was done completely virtual this year. Hey, Megan.
Hi, y'all.
And Event Diligence LLC. Dillian is right in the throes of taking her large retirement. I'd like to give a little extra thanks to Dillian for taking the time to join us today, because she probably has a million other things to do.
Hi everyone. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you all for being here today. So let's get on with it. Dillian, since you were the
Leighton, did you want me to launch this first poll?
Yeah.
Yeah. Quick poll, y'all, if you don't mind tapping on the button and giving us your feedback real quick. We'll just give it a few seconds. Well, now first off, does anybody see a poll?
I did.
Good. That's a good start. The votes are coming in. Not surprising.
In the midst of planning, yeah, I think that's where a lot of people stand. That's what's leading. So Dillian, since you are currently in the midst of planning, could you please, just kind of walk us through what, the stages of where you were, and then what happened? Well, we all know what happened, and the transition to where you are now.
As Leighton said, I am in the middle of it all, so I will probably be able to give you the least exposure and experience, but I will tell you about some of my pain. We had a 10,000 person citywide conference that was scheduled to take place in Los Angeles in June. Then all of the happenings, and as of the end of April, beginning of May, once we were able to get out of all of our current contracts, they decided to go virtual. And so we will be doing this entire program. It was a week-long program. We will be doing it virtual the beginning of August. And so we are in the throes right now of planning that and transitioning everything from a live event to a virtual event. And so we went on an exhaustive search to find a provider to help us do this. So we're in the midst right now of defining all of the information that we need, things that we want to place on the virtual platform, how we're going to do it, what things we will duplicate, things that we will not be able to duplicate. And so we are in the midst of all of this. There's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts right now. And so again, I don't have any resolution to a lot of things. We're still going through and trying to see, in the midst of testing to see what works and what doesn't work. We have a lot of, a lot of pain. We're in the midst of a lot of pain, but if all goes well, beginning of August, we will take this event for 5 days virtually.
Thank you. So Megan mentioned on our pre-call that they were doing a lot of pre-recorded sessions, as well as some live sessions. And Dillian, you kind of followed that up and say that's what you're doing too.
Yes.
Do either one of you have any advice for pre-recording sessions?
Well, like I said, we're in the midst right now, so there is a lot of learning that needs to take place on both ends in terms of educating the speakers on recording, as they have never done this before. This particular group is used to a lot of interaction, and so we have to educate them in that there will not be a lot of back and forth with there will be none actually with the pre-recorded portion of the program, and so just getting them to, we're getting in videos right now. And so we've sent out information and we've provided guidelines on how to do this. Then we have to go through the process of previewing all of it and making sure that if it's the time frame and everything looks well and they don't have to re-record it. And so we're in the process of doing that right now. And there's a lot of learning that takes place on our end to just make sure that all of the systems that they have that are compatible with what we will be using. I mentioned to Jill at one point, we are not using Zoom for any of this because it's not live, and there's a lot of, it's an international program. And so we had to deal with timing for all of this, which is why we're doing some pre-recorded. Even the live sessions, again, you're not going to be able to please everyone. The conference was originally scheduled to be on Pacific time, and so we're leaving it there. And so that means that some of our international participants who view the live conference will be viewing it at the middle of the night. Again, can't be helped. That's one of the things that we're learning, and we're trying to accommodate as many people as possible. Again, the event was about 10,000 people, so not everyone is going to be able to participate. The event will ultimately be available on demand until September. So that's where we are.
Thank you. We've had a lot of good questions rolling already. So let's hear from Megan, who has already wrapped this up. Did you have to reduce your fees for the attendees? I remember in our pre-call, you mentioned that you actually had, it was kind of a good thing because you had even more attendees than expected.
Yes, we did reduce our fees slightly as a standard, and what many are going back to is potentially reducing it no more than 20%. You don't want to devalue your content, and truly with a virtual conference with on demand, there isn't that issue that you run across in a large conference where people have to pick and choose what session to go to. If there's multiple topics that are going on at the same time, they can choose what to attend live and what to attend on demand. And our attendees actually received CEUs, and they were able to receive 10 times the amount that they would have if it was solely in person. So definitely accounting for that and not devaluing what you provide is top of the list. And that definitely helps the bottom line. Our bottom line was doubled. We kind of lowered our expectations initially as we were unsure what the market was going to do and who can afford a conference in the midst of a pandemic. But that paid off twice as much as we had expected. So that was a great bonus.
Thanks. The next question is from Katie Duhan, and I think Mandy may be best to answer this due to her 10 years of experience with virtual events. She asks, do you make sure the pre-recorded video broadcasts are high quality? She says they've had trouble with the stream being strong enough and running smoothly for all the attendees.
Yeah, so that obviously can be an issue. We just wrapped up one of our programs that is a very invasive live meeting, had to go virtual, and it's very, very detailed and a lot of interaction. So we did choose to do pre-recorded because it's not really one that you could do live. And it's broken into one main session with several hundred in attendance, but it's 4 different panels, each presenting for about 45 minutes. So we chose to take that into a recorded session, but we didn't want to lose the panel aspect. So we were having recordings of 7 groups with a moderator going on. We had to do a bunch of testing in advance. I would say for what ultimately ended up being about 10 hours of recording, between all the testing, equipment, finding the right location within their house, we probably spent 30 to 40 hours alone on just working with each of the individuals on getting all of that set up. And, if telling them that they needed to plug in, with a hardwired connection versus wireless. Some people had more luck on their phone, so we had to go through each individual person to make sure that the connections were right. At the end of the day, something's going to happen. We had someone in DC and a storm rolled in. We did the recordings in the middle of the night and the storm rolled in. His connection was up and down. Luckily, we were recorded, so we were able to kind of work around that. So there's still going to be some things that aren't preventable.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even think I have a hardwired connection in my house. I mean,
And
obviously I
most
do,
people
but
don't today.
I can't plug it into my computer because Apple,
Correct.
you know, they just kind of keep,
Yep.
keep cutting things out of their stuff.
Yeah.
Sally, you have your hand up. I was going to ask you a question anyway, but you're on the panel. You can just talk. You know.
I just wanted to
Hand
add
up.
to what Mandy said. I think because virtual only gives us audio and visual, that visual component is so important. And event planners should think of themselves almost like a producer of a show, right? You would never let your speaker or expect to see something on television or sometimes even on YouTube that isn't the best quality. So spend some time with that. Some speakers are good at this. They've been doing podcasts for years. They've been doing webcasts for years, and they're going to be great. They're going to have a great setup. Others are not, and they're going to need some coaching. We also have made available speaker kits because we're not even sure if their laptop's going to handle this well. What kind of webcam do they have? Do they have the right lighting? So those are things that you can do to improve that ahead of time, even for a small meeting. Mandy has a big one, but even for small meetings, it's so important.
Yeah, so Sally, what I was going to ask you is, since you just finished completing your digital DES,
Digital event strategist.
I practiced saying that so many times and I still forgot it.
That's okay.
Anyway, what was your biggest takeaway from that training?
Yeah, so I know many of you out there maybe have taken some of these certification courses already, and I've had a lot of people ask me, was it worth it? So I did go through PCMA, which is the DES, the Digital Event Strategist certification. I chose to do it at my own pace. So you can do it, you know, with a moderator that works all through the sessions. I did it literally on my own. I'm a Netflix kind of gal, right? I like to take things at my own pace. If I want to go ahead and just binge watch it, I will. If I want to do one today, one tomorrow, I will. So that worked out very well for me. I've also been doing this a while. So it's 20 years that I've been doing this. And I had to tell you, the biggest thing, Leighton, was my attitude shift. Just to be completely honest, I'm an on-location event gal. And I thought, golly, we're being forced to do this. How can we get through this? I never want to do one again. But in truth, I will confess to you that I, having been around for a while and probably not giving it the attention it should have, really learned what the virtual component can do. And that really has to do with content. Suddenly now we're putting these online. They're easy to record. We can actually take those then and repackage that content and feed it back out all year long to either promote the event, promote your membership, however your organization is structured. That's a great thing. It helps you grow. When we get back to events, I was one of those people who said, nah, we're not going to do hybrid. Nah, that's going to die off. I'm wrong. And it's because the hybrid portion, back with an on-location event, can really add things that you wouldn't normally have. Introverts, right? We're going to get better with engagement and interactivity because what we've learned because of virtual. And I do think it will be a component from now on of an on-location event. And the last thing, boy, I'm giving you a lot of a big answer, aren't I, Leighton? Sorry about that.
I love it. Keep going.
The last thing is I'm kind of a data geek. And the virtual side of it gives us a lot of numbers, a lot of ways to measure that's difficult to do when you're doing on location only. So that's a big answer for one thing, but that's really what I took away from it.
And everybody should watch Sally work in a smart sheet, I'll tell you. She is a data geek.
I love my data.
Thanks, Sally. Before we shift gears a little bit, we would like to know, for those of you sending out speaker kits, what exactly are you sending them?
Oh, great. So it depends. There's different levels, again, based on what we know about what the speaker has. It can actually include a laptop. It's definitely going to include a good quality webcam. And it's also going to include normally a ring light. And then once they receive it, we're going to set up and we're going to spend about 30 minutes with them. It has instructions on how to set up, where to put your lighting, you know, about staying away from windows, etc. But then we're going to spend about 30 minutes with them to make sure everything's working, that it's structured, it looks good on Zoom, and giving them other tips and tricks as a speaker way before the event actually happens.
Thanks. Is there anything anyone else who's been doing that wants to add?
Yeah,
Yeah, we
microphone.
typically,
Sorry. Microphone. What? I forgot
Is
microphone.
that anyone else, Sally?
yeah, we add microphones, but we also typically do gray screens, or you can do green screens. We just try to have a really professional backdrop, and what we found with a lot of our attendee groups is they're distracted by what's in your background. So by having a simple, solid background, we found really keeps their focus. So we always add the backdrops with the little stand to hold it up as well.
So Mandy, with that, then do you also do a virtual background or only the green screen?
The green screen is when you do a virtual background, which I believe is what Megan is using today. But with our group, they chose to go with gray. It's hard sometimes with the green screens if the lighting's wrong, or when you move, sometimes you look like a bobblehead if it's not 100% perfect. So we tend to lean towards the gray, kind of what you would see in a photography studio is what we use for our backdrops.
Yes.
I think that's great advice. The green screen is not only expensive right now, but yeah, it
Hard
can
to
be
find.
troublesome.
We also added into our speaker kits a checklist, really like a to-do, how to run a speed test, things like that, just to double check their infrastructure for them to go through before the day of either the live event or the day of their pre-recording, and then worked with their moderator who was assigned to be their support or backup, who walked them through that exact same checklist right before they spoke. We know with everyone working from home and schooling from home and living from home, bandwidths fluctuate minute by minute. So that was also ideal.
Yeah, Leighton was breaking up earlier,
Right.
as a matter of fact. I mean, it
Yeah, I
happens,
believe that was a
happens to
Bluetooth
everybody.
issue because I could hear it disconnect, and
Yeah, I've got a question, and it basically talks to something that came up. I think Lynn Tires was asking about special ring lights, and one of the things I've noticed, and not to call Sally out, but when you got the ring lights and glasses, sometimes the ring can be distracting. Is there a better ring light than others? Is there a better place to place them than others in order to avoid those kind of things?
Yeah, so there's a couple. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, Sally.
I think actually light is what we found is we do a couple of things, and what is recommended generally is that you have a light that's kind of coming towards you this way. You have another light that's coming towards you this way, and then you have one in your background if you're not using a green screen, because that sets you apart from what's in the background, gives it more kind of a depth of vision. Ring lights, the one I've got up here, and didn't have my glass there, that's better, are really, to me, I've not seen much of a difference, so I'd look to somebody else for impact. I have a little $24 one in front of me right now, and it's just that simple. It's just a small one. It was actually meant for an iPhone, but I have so many windows in here, I have to bring down my blinds because I would look completely like a white sheet if I did it with.
Yeah, I have to close my blind so I don't look distracted. So I look out the window at the birds.
There's another trick because we're all facing our screens, if you turn the brightness of your screen down, that will help with the reflection as well. It's a little harder
We
to
found
see.
that to be that was our number one culprit, is it's not actually the lighting. It's been almost every single instance. It has been the brightness on your computer is what has changed that for us. So we order a bit nicer camera light, and the reason we do is they have a bright and then an orange and then a blue. Everyone's lighting is different, so the ones that we've been sending out, it has 3 different settings, and not one person is using the same settings. So we make sure to invest in a little bit better quality one on that.
So Marissa brought up a question. What about people of color? How do you work with the lighting on that?
So the last group we did was 32 people from across the world. I didn't make the joke, but several people made the joke. People of color actually look better on camera. Those with Caucasian skin tend to kind of get drawn out. Anyone of any other color, we had very little adjustments. If they had their ring light, they had very little adjustments that they had to do. The skin color just looks really great on camera.
Good to know. Thanks.
Do either Sally or Mandy, who mentioned the ring lights, want to drop a name or where you got it? We've had that question come through.
I just found mine on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, I can pull the one that we ordered off of Amazon that has the 3 settings, but you'll see my fingers, so I can send it to you afterwards, Leighton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see your finger. That's funny. Thanks. Dylan, what I was going to shift to earlier, and we got really kind of in the weeds on lighting and stuff. I was going to ask you about sponsorships. We talked about that a little bit in the pre-call. And I thought you had some pretty interesting ideas of how to sort of entice the sponsors to get on board with the virtual event.
I don't have any specific ideas, but what we've done is that we were able to. This was an event that had probably around, there were 900 exhibits and maybe about 150 to 200 sponsors. The virtual platform does give you different opportunities for sponsorship in the banners, in the opening up of the sessions and things like that. And so we were able to sell a percentage of that and maintain some of that. Not everyone is going to move over, and that's fine. Some have opted to keep their sponsorship for the following year and not do the virtual, not use it virtually. But gamification helps. If your platform does provide some kind of gamification, sponsors were able to do that. They're also able to sponsor chat rooms or social happy hours and things of that nature. So we had the ability for sponsors to take advantage of that. And some did. Not all, but some did.
Megan, was that your experience as well?
Yes, for the most part, of course. One big advantage of being on an exhibit hall is people can see your product, can touch your product, can use it in the way it's intended, and some don't fully convert due to that aspect, especially if it's a retail exhibit booth where they're selling clothing, something like that. But for our summer conference, we did convert most of them. I would say 75% did convert. One thing that there were probably 50%, so half and half half were fully committed and half were on the fence. But one big thing that brought them in and got that yes was being able to show them throughout the registration process how broad their reach will be through sponsoring, due to just travel expenses. You may have a limited amount of international attendees, and now they have that and they can broaden their exposure. We're a statewide association, but definitely bring in that international and out-of-state audience. So with virtual, it has, doubled. So we shared the representation from states and countries throughout the registration process to really bring those in and show what their ROI will be if they participate.
Can I make a quick comment about that also, Leighton?
Of course.
I think to what I mentioned earlier about being able to record content and then make it last during the year, we have unlock on location generally, except for maybe a microsite that you've set up. There's only that day or a few days that the sponsors get exposure. With a virtual event, if you're using that content and putting it back out off and on again during the year and they sponsor that keeps their name in front of them on a specific session that maybe they have subject matter experts in, or if they're in the panel, they get that exposure again. So there's an opportunity to lengthen that sponsorship, in my mind, through a virtual event.
I heard of a planner that also set up, not only was the event kind of spread out over days or weeks, but they also set up specific meeting times with the sponsors
Yes.
when they could, people could call in again and meet just with that sponsor.
Yeah, there's apps that you can connect into your virtual event. Brain Date is one of them that I'm aware of, that you can use not only to let attendees network better, versus just running into somebody during lunch that you happen to have something in common with, and you end up having an ongoing network relationship with them. You can match people using something like Brain Date, and that would include exhibitors or sponsors by keywords and topics and things like that, that will set appointments for them in the background, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. We went on a demo for Brain Date the other day, and it was pretty, it seems like it'll be valuable for replacing an in-person trade show. Do you guys feel like the 3D, simulated trade show is more valuable than, just like a listing? Or who has used the 3D, the virtual?
Yeah, I haven't, and I would like to see some more of them, because, kind of maybe not the full 3D, but kind of the people, the models in the background, like they're standing in a lobby, just kind of puts me off. But if it's truly interactive and, gives you a different visual, again, it's all about the environment, right? We miss our on location environment. So if we can build something that's really true with a great avatar, and you actually can move through and find and do things and meet with other people, I think it's great. I haven't used one yet because of expense, and I still haven't seen one that I just think is absolutely awesome. I'd love to hear in the chat if anybody has.
You have to start sending out joysticks for people to move their avatar around.
I was thinking virtual goggles.
There you go. We'll get some VR in there.
Yeah, we have a few clients that right now are in the process of considering the 3D virtual for a couple different programs. And it's really, you have to spend time going through and identifying what platform is best for a client. So when we're meeting with them, we're walking through kind of, is it a webcast, is it a webinar, or is it a 3D virtual that's best? We spend a lot of time trying to get into what their goals are. But 3D virtuals, if you are doing sponsorships or if you need heavy branding, that is really where we are recommending the 3D virtual. We know it comes with an expense, but you're going to see a higher rate of sponsors based on what they're getting out of it. Their name is going to be branded everywhere. People that might walk up to the booth, when you're at a live trade show, someone walks up to your booth and walks away and they don't talk to you, you don't capture their information unless you have the RFID chip. For the virtual, you see them walking into the booth, you might see what they touch. So it gives the touch points, and it also allows immediately to video chat or to have a phone call or a Skype chat or whatever you're using. So for the right platform, we absolutely think it's worth it. It really does have a lot of added benefits.
Thanks, that's great. We are going to launch our next poll, which is based on ROI, so flowing right into this conversation. While the votes are rolling in, Sally, I think you were about to say something.
Yeah, I did. So, in kind of thinking beyond, if y'all are like me, we talk virtual all day long now, and that gets, well, I want to talk about
Virtually disgusting.
Thanks. So the other thing that I am running into that I wanted to just discuss really quickly is, now that hopefully in Q1 and in Q4, which I think we have a poll for too, but as we are looking at going back to on location, I'm seeing a bit of a shift with some of the clients that I work with, that it's getting to where it's not so much the virus now, but it's more of an economic issue, meaning they've suffered this year. Almost all businesses, no one's been left untouched. And so now they're making budget decisions about what events they're going to have next year. It's not about the virus so much, it's a budget decision. So I would just encourage you all to look into return on investment. I have a certification with ROI Institute. They're kind of the gold standard, and they actually have a specific program customized for meetings and events. Because I think if we're not showing that hard dollar value, that business impact, events are likely not to come back as quickly. Whereas if you are doing that, even with virtual, it's doable with virtual, then you'll have an easier time getting those events back online, because to executive level, it's all about the bottom line next year, I believe, as we slowly go back online, and it makes all the difference. So I've actually sent a couple of links for resources. If you want to check out the ROI Institute, they have free resources, and then there's different levels. And I would like to also offer, if you'd like to reach out to me, you can go to ironpeacockevents.com and just use our contact me, or if you guys want to put my email in the chat, I'd be happy to talk with you more about it, because I just think it is so important to what we're doing. So how did the poll, I was talking, how did the poll come out?
It tied.
What?
It was a tie.
It was a 50-50 tie between I do it well and I need to work on it. So
yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, thanks, Sally. As long as we're talking about, you know, the return to live events, you know, hearing Megan talk about how they, you know, they doubled their bottom line going virtual this year because so many international people can come. I mean, how do you say to your stakeholders that, you know, I don't know, like, we want to have an event, but we're also going to have some hybrid, because we don't want to lose those people that can't travel. You know, what does that look like going forward? Yeah, it's a hard question.
Well, that's actually an approach we're currently taking. Our large citywide is the first full week of February every year, and as we all are seeing, Q1 of 2021 is most likely to be impacted. We're an association that's targeted to educational technology, keyword technology. So we know as an association that if we don't proceed and make plans for hybrid events moving forward, we're going to be left behind and we're going to become stale. And no one wants that for their company or association. So we are being very strategic in and looking at those big items, the huge general session stage that may get used once a day, that comes with a high expense, to say, okay, maybe this year we can use atomics and that's it, and get back to the basics of in-person event deco, so we can reallocate some of our budget to this hybrid aspect, because that means we're going to have costs for everyone who's there, and everyone that's coming in and wants to see those live events streamed and on demand and semi-live education. So so it definitely does come with an expense, but also know that, you know, depending on your demographic, you may truly be left behind if you don't bring in the latest and greatest and break down those barriers to travel and cost.
Yeah, and we've been doing the hybrid for, I mean, pretty consistently for 5+ years now. We just find that it increases the attendance for those that just truly can't get out of office for 3 to 4 days. It gives them the opportunity to not be behind, especially if there's training components to the meetings. You know, otherwise the corporations are having to pay to fly someone out to the offices to train. So that's something that we've been doing. The hybrid cost can be very nominal to add on to a live meeting. So, you know, a lot of people are afraid of it, but just to add a hybrid to a meeting, you're only looking at $5,000 or $6,000. You know, some of our programs we've actually decided to take away. We do webcasts, and we've decided to take it away from the live meeting and actually do post-recording webcasts, which is more time intensive, but gave a better product. So I think you just have to really look at the programs, but hybrid has been here, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
And Mandy, do your clients, I mean, have you worked out sort of a formula for how you charge for a virtual attendee versus live?
We have. We've actually spent a lot of time working on that. And obviously now it has shifted because virtual is more common today. So it's made people go back and relook at how we did charge. So we did had to have find a kind of a middle ground per se and change our pricing in the last few months. So that's, I won't give out our whole pricing model, but we did have to completely restructure it.
Yeah, we're in the midst of kind of looking at that right now. So we don't have, this is the first year that we're going virtual. And I believe, like you said, like everyone has said, we're, hybrid is not going away, but we're still trying to find that sweet spot between what we will charge and what we won't charge for on-site versus virtual. This year, I know that we are looking at it as a building year. So we have significantly slashed prices because we're looking to grow the membership this year as opposed to just on physical attendance. So if we get more people involved and more people looking at what we have to offer, then we're still trying to figure out what is the best split. Now that we have a broader attendance or a broader pool of people, people know what we have, how can we satisfy both areas? So it's still under investigation. We don't know what the number is right now. We don't have a formula at this point.
And like Megan said, their attendance went up significantly, and that's what we're seeing. And you're right, Dylan. It really is. A lot of times people have a hard time saying, I want to invest $900, $1,000 to go to a conference. Now they're getting to see this value at, you know, a lesser expense. And so I think a lot of associations and groups that have these large conferences, you're going to have more buy-in today. So I think that this kind of has helped get more involved. I know it's not all what we want because we love to be on the road, but I definitely think it's going to help increase attendance and support for these groups.
I think John had an interesting perspective. You know, so to make it so easy for people to attend the virtual part of a hybrid meeting, what are we going to be doing to encourage people to get on a plane and go to a hotel and go? I mean, obviously networking and things, but I mean, is it going to be harder to get people to attend in person?
I don't think it
Free
will.
hugs.
Just from my point of view, I think, you know, we're humans. We like to be around each other. Most of us do. But to Dillian's point, I think the real value of the hybrid is you offer, it's a low cost of entry, if you will, to new members or new attendees or new clients that you want to market to. And it gives them a way to try you without committing going to the full event and like you. And I would say with virtual, they don't get all the content. They get a portion or subsets of the content. And that helps you keep the cost down. It leaves them wanting more. And if they like what they see, if you've built your content correctly, then they'll be at your next live event on location.
Yeah, that's a great point. Almost like the, you know, if you live stream before COVID, like live stream a concert, you're like, oh, that was great. I wish I was there. You know, how do you create that kind of atmosphere on the hybrid side?
Yes, our attendees are, you know, they're educators. They're all about the swag and the bag and what are the exhibitors giving away? And, oh, these people are giving away sticky notes. You better go visit their booth before they run out. Things like that. So that's definitely a driver for our demographic. But one concern, you know, as our event is in Q1, the virus isn't going away as quickly as we had hoped for, is that there's also options to partner with your hotel blocks and actually secure a TV station and be able to stream in some selective content into the televisions provided in the hotel rooms.
Right.
So we are looking into that, as well as providing the virtual aspect as a bonus to in-person attendees. So if you know, they wake up on the day they're to arrive and go to the keynote and they feel under the weather, they can stay and remain in their hotel rooms and still be able to participate. So it's definitely a consideration to take into this time. We don't expect to provide that for free as a bonus for the years and years to come, but considering the pandemic and the focus on your health, we're providing that this year.
So with Megan's point about the virus not going away, I think we have a quick question. We'd like to know if you are seeing that you're able to put force majeure in place for meetings in the rest of the year or not. Do we have that poll available to throw up right now?
Jennifer's on top of it.
Actually, Jill's taking care of it.
Okay.
That was a surprise. Wow. So can you see the progress?
I can't see it for some reason.
Okay. All right. Give it 5 more seconds.
Yeah, I don't think panelists see the polls. We'll just have to tell you what happens.
I fly blind.
There you go. Let's see.
Okay, so we are seeing
37%
some.
yes, 63% no.
That's interesting. Good to know.
Well, great. Man, I don't have a good question, so I'm just going to open it up to the field. And, you know, we're running low on time. So is there anyone else that wants to blurt out a question for our panel?
What?
Nobody. Oh, man.
I could address, John posted about the digital swag bag. We are also providing that because, you know, virtual swag is better than no swag, but those exhibitors that do convert to virtual or participate in both are able to provide white paper type of resources, as well as, you know, coupons or a discount code for their software or product. And that there's various platforms that provide where you visit a booth and you say, I want to claim this swag, I want to claim this swag, and it all goes into your digital swag bag. So that is one option that we've looked into.
Megan, with that, is it like a digital coupon? I'm a little confused on that. So I'm not
Yes.
the brightest person, but
It is. It's more of, so think of it as bookmarking multiple documents or multiple PDFs. They're able to provide promotion exclusive to the attendees to say you get 50% off whatever they're providing, something like that. And so they can bookmark it, take it and download onto their computer, and then do the conversion process and actually purchasing their product.
and then Mandy, Sally, and Delane, are you guys offering something similar?
For our first year, we are not offering any digital swag bags, unfortunately. We are still trying to put together the program. So.
You want to walk
No,
before
we're
you
not.
run.
Exactly. No,
So
nothing. We are leaving that up to the individual sponsors. So if they visit a booth and they are interested in providing a service, we encourage that, and we allow them to do that. But we don't have anything formal for the entire group.
Yeah,
I
and
saw
we're not
one
doing
company.
necessarily. Oh, go ahead.
No, sir, please.
I said we're not necessarily doing digital gift bags per se, but we're actually mailing items out. So for certain groups, we're doing surveys for some of our groups, and you know, we're seeing 60-40 right now, where 60% want to go face-to-face and 40% don't. So we're sending gifts that are regional to where we're going. We're about to have one in Napa, so we'll be sending very high-end wine and gift baskets. Still some activities that they might have missed out on why they were there for the trip, that they can experience at home when they're ready. So you just really have to take into consideration the group. They wouldn't want digital items, but you know, nice wine, cheese, and experience at home is what this group would be looking for. So that way they don't feel like they're still missing out on on everything that's happening there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I saw something, you know, someone was sending out like an etched beer glass for the happy hour with the logo on it, and they still sent out name badges. So that, I don't know what the purpose of that was,
Yeah.
honestly, but you know,
People
maybe they
save
just
them.
held their.
Layton, we're talking about a
Walk in
conference,
and-
not a best man gift.
Yeah, look at the cork boards and all the name badges that you'll see people have hanging up.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that came up just a second ago from Liz is about talking about production increases or production cost increases. And you know, we've talked like in the pre-meeting, others, is that there can be some trade-offs. I mean, you may spend more on production because of the value you need, but you may save in other areas, and it'd be interesting to get perspectives of the panelists on that.
I heard someone mention just earlier that, you know, the cost of flying in speakers, we have, it's an international conference, and if we can get, you know, top name speakers and for the cheaply or have them prepare virtually, that would be an advantage to our particular group. And we would welcome that and, you know, and trade that off with a lot of in-person costs. So again, that's for the future. Right now, we are all of our speakers our keynote speakers have agreed to do this virtually despite the time differences. And so we're fortunate this year, but it's something that we would look at for future years.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting time how this huge global event has completely shifted the way we're looking at our industry, and how going forward it's going to be, you know, we're going to have more options for everybody to attend, and hopefully we'll build on that and come out of this thing better than ever. So with that, I'm going to thank all of our speakers and try to wrap this thing up unless anybody has anything else they want to put in real quick. Nope. All righty then. Let me move on my little slide thing to remind everyone to mark their calendars for the next 2 webinars that we're hosting. On July 23rd, we have Corbin Ball, who is oh man, I hate to even put a number. He's been around for a long time, and he's been putting out excellent content the whole time. He is a technology wizard. He knows every single application in the world, maybe. It's probably selling him a little bit too much, but he's great. And the following event, which will be 2 weeks from then, on August 6th, is John Howe. He is an attorney at Howe and Hutton, who they've been in this industry forever doing contracts, etc. So it'll be very interesting to hear what he has to say about you know, where we stand with liabilities and contracts in this ever-changing landscape. So thank the panel again. Let's give them a round of applause. Thanks for coming on. Thank everyone for joining us today. And hopefully we'll see you next time.
Wait. I just put several links in the chat if you want to grab them real quick. Like Red Velvet Events has a spreadsheet of platforms that they're looking at. There's Virtual Event Tech Guide from Julia Solaris and Event MB that is very detailed. You'll be inundated with information. And then also, there is an online Slack channel of event profs that I've gone and visited on. I mean, it comes up on my screen every morning. I go look and see what's going on. So it's been kind of interesting. So
thanks, Jill. Yeah, the chat was great today. So we'll pull that down from the Zoom transcript and post it or send it out to everyone that attended. So once again,
thanks for being here,
everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah. Have a great weekend.
And we'll see you next time.
Have a good one. Thank